In this video, I'm going to be making something called an instance block. And the instance block is going to teach you a couple of things, such as making a creeper only be able to strike if a creeper steps on it will turn it into a charged creeper. If a skeleton happens to step on it, it's going to instantly turn it into a wither skeleton. And if a zombie steps on it, it's going to turn it into a baby. We also have it so that even for the player, which you can tell that I'm in creative, if the player steps on it, it will kill you regardless. So, with that in mind, let's get cracking. So, to get started, we are going to make a basic block, and we're going to call it instance block, which simply means that the name instance block, this is instance block, and we're just going to leave this as regular block for now. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a new class. I'm going to call this the instance block, and then we're going to have this extends block. And then I can hit enter, constructor matching super, and then I'm going to go in my mod blocks, and now that we have the block, we can type in instance block, and that should now be in there. So if we could just kind of close out of this, we can close out of the high block. I'm not too sure why I have that open. Now we can get started. So today's video is going to be based off of the onSteppedOn. I originally thought it was called isEntityAbove, but it turns out it's called onSteppedOn. The entity above is actually part of the big drip leaf, which is part of onEntity collision, meaning you have to be inside the block. While for onSteppedOn actually just simply means is basically the entity stepping on it, the top side of the block, the top pixel, so it's outside the block. You get the drift. So let's put in our three little attributes that we're going to be doing today. Alright, and just like that, we have our creeper is going to strike. So basically this means that if it is a charged creeper, we're going to have to make sure that it stops striking lightning. Because technically the way that the charged creeper works is it is a static attribute. It is held in NPT data, so it is still technically a creeper. So that's why we need to check for that. And then the skeleton converts to a wither. I did actually use the class names, but we're gonna do. I think I actually put this in hardest to easiest. So let's kind of start on with the first one. So basically, if you remember from my video in hierarchy, if I said if, and then we have an entity, and then we can control H, and we can look at all the entity types. So obviously we would be going into a living entity, and outside the player entity we have mob, and then we have path aware, and then we have hostile is where we're generally like dipping into. But you can keep going down, and you can actually change this to whatever it is. As long as it somehow comes off of entity, you can do entity instance of, and then which one we are doing. So right now we are doing the creeper entity, and so if I and then you should always generally write in a variable after, so you don't have to, but it's very well suggested to do that, and then that way we can actually pull it up. And so what this will do is if you if I simply didn't put this here and I just would write entity dot, and then I can say anything about the entity that is specifically touching it if it's a creeper. But if I want to grab something specific to the creeper, I would have to make the creeper entity, and then instead of saying entity creeper dot, and now I have access to things specific to the creeper and not just the entity itself. So to make the creeper, like I said, it is an NPT data. So if we look at the get data tracker, and then you can get, and then it says data. I'm just typing this out. So let's actually take a look at the creeper class for an example. So there is a thing called a charge. It is your attract data as a Boolean, but the problem is this is a private static. Private is the concern here. Private simply means that whatever comes after, whatever it is that they're talking about, can only be used in this class. And if it is private, then that means I can't use it in this class. I can't, okay, it's not that I can't use it, I can't call it. However, this has to be used somewhere in the class. And lucky enough for us, if I look for it, there should be something that basically says, should render overlay return the Boolean if it is basically dot get charged, right? And so normally you would think, you know, if you thought, you know, you could just copy and paste it, you'd still have the same problem. You can't do that. But since the Boolean means true or false, and this is talking about should that overlay, that's talking about that the blue texture that he has on top of him. If this returns true, then that means he has to be a charged creeper. So we can simply say, well, we're going to write it a little bit wrong, and then we'll fix it just so that you can kind of see it. A lot of people, I see, will do it like this. We'll type it in here, and then they'll say if the creeper should render the overlay, then we can say, oh, I just realized I was going to say summon the lightning here. Why should we not do that? Because you shouldn't strike a creeper that already has it. So how do we make sure it's if he doesn't have it? You would simply just put an explanation saying that if it's not a charged creeper, then we want to summon the lightning, and we can do that by doing the entity type dot lightning bolt dot spawn, and then we can do world. But notice how, like, when I'm typing it in, it says server world in the beginning. So actually, you can kind of stop yourself and skip, and we can type in server world world. And then I'm going to stop right here. Anytime you use the server world, if you remember I talked about this before, we're going to say from the beginning, if, and then we're going to say not world.isClient, and. That is going to stop any crashes because you're calling from the server world. It does happen sometimes, but just make sure that when you use something from the server world, you do that. We can do position, and then we can say spawn reason, mob summon. You can honestly probably use any one that you want. Let's use triggered. I think that one just sounds funnier. So we're just going to use triggered. And then normally what people will do is they can kind of like question, like, is this, you know, the most efficient? Usually it made sense. We can get rid of this because we're not using this. I was just using that as an example. Usually when it makes sense in my mind that when you're making the if statement and you're making all the ands, because the variable is in this condition, it would make sense to me that you can't put it inside the same condition, but that is actually false. You can actually say call the variable and then use it like right as you use it in the same condition line, and say if the creeper, you know, should you know, not do the overlay. And if that is true, then we can just kind of back this out, and then now we have it like this. I'm also going to add an extra thing. I'm going to say creeper dot heal, and then I'm going to give it a ridiculous amount. So there's a couple things that you could do. You can, what this is specifically doing is, I know that the damage of the lightning bolt is not going to be 1,000. There's no way. What this is doing, though, is because the creeper, after he gets struck by lightning, he actually takes a lot of damage. So this is just making it like a fully healed thing. And I could give it like instant health. I could give it like an effect or something to do that. I prefer to use heal in this situation because it is only when he is touching onSteppedOn the block. And this is also saying the regular creeper. So once he gets struck by lightning, he was already at maximum health. And then on top of that, he should also be perfectly, you know, he won't stay. If he gets back on it, he won't be able to instantly heal. So it's just kind of there for a catch, so he kind of heals up. I feel like it's more proper to do it that way. But with that in mind, we got this first one done. The second one, like I said, we're going to be going to easier. If I say if, and then I can say entity, instance of, and then we'll say skeleton entity skeleton, then we can do skeleton dot can convert. Hold on, convert. I know convert to, that's what it's called. And it says it wants an entity type, mob entity type. Don't get intimidated when you say the entity type, like, you know, and it's got the little brackets, and it's like, oh, what does this all mean? Just type in entity type, and you can type whatever entity you want. So obviously I said wither skeleton, and then this one says the second attribute is should it keep its equipment or not. It's a boolean, true or false. Keep the equipment. I'm going to say false. I kind of like it when, I mean, I think if I said true, he would have it. Actually, I'm going to set it to true in this case. Normally we saw in the beginning of the video that that he will have his arms down, and so he'll just kind of fight you like a zombie. I'm going to keep it on for true. I want to see if he gets a bow, and if the wither skeleton tries to shoot me with a bow, because honestly, I think that would be also kind of funny. Another thing that's really cool about this convert to is that if I click on it, it's part of the mob entity class, which means that you can put this on basically any, oop, that's not the correct way. Let's try and do this, Control H. So, and then it says it's part of the mob entity class. So if I say living entity, mob entity, that means I can attach it to any flying, ambient, ender dragon, pathaware, slime entity. Pathaware is, you know, basically it has everything in passive and all that. So literally you can put this on the creeper per se. You can put this on the, I'm curious what would happen if I put it on the player. But if I, you know, I can do the creeper dot convert to, and then I can say, you know, entity type dot, is player part of this? That'd be creepy. True. This would probably, wait, is it giving me an error? There are no instances. Okay, that's funny. I think that'd be crazy. And then, but basically that is how you convert any entity actually, because you can call any entity by doing this, and then you can just make the variable and then say, you know, convert to whatever entity you want. So I think that is also a pretty useful thing to know. So we have the converting completely done. And then we're going to get even easier. If entity instance of zombie entity, and then we'll just say a zombie. Then we're just going to say zombie dot set baby, and then we can say true. So that sets up the entity. So this will just set it to a baby. And then if I say false, I wonder if that means if it is a baby, if it'll convert it to an adult. Not too sure. You can always, you know, test things yourself. It's not that hard. But then we can get rid of that, and then instance kill player. This is honestly the easiest one. If entity instance of player entity player, and then we can just say player dot kill. And now we have everything that we wanted. I'm gonna try and do the I'm just curious, the player dot convert oh, it won't let me do it. That would have been so funny. Wait, is it not? Oh wait, no, it's technically not, is it? Control H. Player living entity. Okay, player is not a mob entity, so that's why it cannot conform to it. Any mob entity can turn into any mob entity, and that's also why it said it cannot conform to player entity. That would have been really. I mean, obviously it would have crashed, but honestly, that would kind of. I mean, think about it. It would have been funny. But now we have all of our settings, so let's see if we can try and re-replicate some of the stuff. Let's also. Now we'll keep it like that, so baby true. All right. Let's load it up and then see how everything works. All right, so we just summoned a creeper, and then I'm going to stand over here, and I'm going to have him chase me. Boo boo, I'm over here. Struck by lightning. Now he is there, and that's pretty good. So now if I go into creative and I hit shovel, right, this shouldn't kill him. Okay, it does kill him. Okay, so I was wrong. I thought about this while I was doing it. It's okay. We'll head back to that in a second. The second one that we said was a skeleton. This one's going to be hard because the skeleton likes to avoid the player. I'm going to try and put it close. Does he back up to the player? No, he actually charges the player. Interesting. Follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me. We're gonna place a couple. One of them's got to touch it, right? Oh, one of them touched it. Oh, he does. Oh, wow. Impressed for a couple reasons. Was burnt to a crisp. Was burnt to a crisp while fighting a skeleton. Okay, that makes more sense. But imagine if it's I want to say like shot to death. Oh, what? He still has fire arrows? That's crazy. And I think it was because the skeleton... Yeah, because if you think about it, the skeleton was on fire, and then I asked to keep the equipment. So now it is part of the... It is now part of the equipment that when he was on fire... That's crazy. Let's get some fire resistance. Because I wanted to say that I was shot by a wither skeleton. That's so funny. And then obviously there's nothing too cool about the zombie. It was just something that I just felt like throwing out there. Boop, baby, 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 baby. Oh wow, look at the tiny little sword he's got. That's cute. I'm burning a bunch of children. Ah, nothing like watching a bunch of children burn to death. And then obviously, boop, was killed. Alright, so because in our class we want to set both these lines of code into two separate conditions, I think it is probably best that we take out this last thing and then we can say if, and then we can say and then we'll do the, if it is not, Control C, Control V, and then basically if it is outside of this, then it'll basically be an automatic else, because it's saying entity instance of creeper, and it's a creeper whether it has this on or not. So that is a way that we could do that. And then I want him to touch this again. Lol. Alright, and then just to make sure that this is working, we're going to, he's going to get struck by lightning. So while that is going on, he's going to be taking some damage, and then I'm going to want him to touch it again, which is going to be a little risky because I can't touch it. Otherwise, it will, so he's going to touch it again, so he should have healed now, at least. So I hit him with the shovel. Yeah, this definitely would have killed him otherwise. So we have healed the creeper properly. So that's all the instances. If you have any more instances, any more instance ideas, you can let me know in the comments below. But that's going to wrap up this video of onSteppedOn. So just watch your step. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you can let me know. I do also have the Discord server, I think, in every description of every video. So that should be in there as well. But that's going to wrap up this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. And without further ado,